The Los Angeles Rams are 3-5 and are coming off of back-to-back losses against the 49ers and Buccaneers. They've put up just 27 points in the last two games. Matt Stafford has thrown for 352 passing yards combined in the past two games, and they are a mess. It's truly hard to believe just 9 months ago this team was Super Bowl champions, but here we are. The Rams have also been infamous for trading first-round picks for star players like they did for Jalen Ramsey, and like they did for, and I make sure to add this, but like they did for Super Bowl champion Matthew Stafford. You'd have to think at some point the results are going to come down and that this team will have to truly rebuild through the draft and effectively start over. And in today's video, we're going to dive into the Los Angeles Rams present, their future, and what they will look like moving forward. Right now, though, they are a mess, and there is a lot to dive into in today's video, and without further ado, let's begin. And we are starting today's video by discussing one of the biggest differences between the 2021 Los Angeles Rams and the 2022 Los Angeles Rams, and that's the offensive line. Matt Stafford threw 601 passes in 2021 over the course of 17 games and was sacked 30 times. Through the first 8 games in 2022, he's attempted 285 passes and has already been sacked 28 times. Yes, left tackle Andrew Whitworth retired this offseason, and that is obviously impacting them, but I do want it to be known this is far more than just the loss of Big Whit. His retirement obviously has had impact, don't get me wrong, but it is more than this. They have 3 linemen that have allowed 19 pressures or more each, with Bobby Evans allowing 19, Rob Havenstein allowing 20, and Joe Noteboom allowing 23 in the first 8 games. The Rams and the Texans are the only NFL teams to have 3 linemen allow at least 19 pressures through the first 9 weeks of the season. Keep in mind the Rams have had their bye, and they have 1 less game than some other NFL teams. What also hurts the Rams in a big way this year, aside from the offensive line, is having no true number 2 receiver to Cooper Kupp. And what Sean McVay does a lot of the time to try and manufacture touches for someone else in the receiving game is call screens. And not just 1 or 2, but genuinely a lot of screens. This was showed in Week 8 in a game against the 49ers when the Rams' offensive line, relative to the 49ers' pass rush, was hopelessly outmatched. So what McVay did to counter the pass rush was call screens early and often. They received the ball first against San Fran in this Week 8 game, to which Sean McVay called a run play that got a grand total of 0 yards on 1st and 10, then proceeded to call 2 straight screens. And not having a legitimate weapon outside of Cooper Kupp, along with the play calling getting a little stale at times, frustrates the hell out of Rams fans. And it's not like the screens McVay's calling are trend-setting plays that are changing the NFL. For reference, on those 2 screens that we mentioned on the Rams' first drive of the game, Stafford was 1 of 2 for -2 yards on those plays. According to PFF, Stafford finished the day 7 of 9 on screens for 34 yards with no touchdowns and no interceptions, so less than 4 yards per attempt. The Rams' offensive line also hurts the run game in a big way because there is nowhere to go. They are second to last in the NFL with averaging 3.2 yards per carry, ahead of only Tampa, who we discussed a few weeks ago, and who has a big problem of their own along their offensive line. Having a non-mobile quarterback with an O-line that's not good does not translate to a lot of success in 2022. You can work around it, but with no run game, a non-mobile quarterback, and for the Rams, not great weapons outside of Cooper Kupp, there will be a lot of ugly plays, and for that matter, ugly games, as teams game plan solely around not getting beat by Cooper Kupp. One of the biggest reasons we've seen the Rams fall off in 2022 relative to the Rams we typically see is they usually hit on their draft picks. Obviously, their draft picks haven't been too high over the past few years, considering they haven't had a true first-round pick since 2016 when they selected quarterback Jared Goff. But the draft picks they do have usually play a key backup role or even become a starter for a couple of years. When you think of the Rams, you think of Sean McVay, Aaron Donald, Cooper Kupp, Matt Stafford, and Jalen Ramsey. But in 2018, they had one pick in the top 100, which was tackle Joe Noteboom. And I realize he hasn't been a great starter this year, really by any metric, but he allowed just one sack in 10 games in all of 2021. Center Brian Allen, who missed some time this year due to injury, has been a starter for some time and signed a 3-year extension this past offseason. But over the past 2 years, the drafting has not been great. And during those 2017, 18, and 19 drafts, they were killing it for the rounds they were picking. Example, Cooper Kupp. It's rare territory for a team to have 2 starting offensive linemen in one draft class, let alone 2 starting defensive linemen, as they also selected defensive lineman John Franklin Myers, who was released after a season with the Rams and has since turned his entire career around with the Jets, and when they selected defensive tackle Sebastian Joseph Day. This is the 2018 draft for the Rams, to be clear. Sebastian signed with the Chargers this offseason, and obviously when you think of a defensive tackle for the Rams, you think of AD 99, but Sebastian was a solid second defensive tackle, and the Rams' last 2 drafts have been very underwhelming compared to this run they had. Tutu Atwell was drafted in the 2nd round in 2021, and he was way overdrafted for what he was as a prospect. He was listed at 5'8", 150 pounds, and to date has just 1 career catch for 54 yards. There were a lot of not great receivers taken in the 3rd round, but this was truly a wild selection and it did not pan out. For reference, Amon-Ra St. Brown was taken in the 4th, and given he played college football at USC, I think the Rams should have been very familiar with him, and he would have been, and still would be, a perfect complement to Cooper Kupp. They later took Ben Skowronek in the 7th round, and in a year and a half has 35 receptions for 364 career receiving yards. I don't want to kill the Skowronek selection because ultimately it was a 7th round pick, so there's not a lot of expectations, and even the production they've had from him is more than what you would typically expect from a 7th round pick. But the point and overall concept of the production the Rams have had from later round picks has in a lot of ways vanished. 6th round rookie corner Derion Kendrick has played a lot this year, and it should come as a surprise to no one that a rookie corner on the same team as Jalen Ramsey is going to get targeted quite a bit. And in 6 games, he's been targeted 45 times, and opposing receivers have 29 catches for 398 yards and a touchdown on him. Opposing quarterbacks also have a passer rating of 100 when targeting Derion, and in today's NFL, when you're playing teams with Mike Evans and Chris Godwin, and A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith, and any other duo you want to name, having a 6th round rookie corner out there is extremely risky, and the culmination of not having 1st round picks over the course of 7 years, combined with relying on what is typically depth draft picks come in and start, well, the results are showing for LA in 2022 in a big way. And for as bad as the Rams have looked at times this year, it arguably could have gotten worse in terms of their long-term outlook. They offered 2 first-round picks recently for Brian Burns, and their 2023 first-round pick is already in Detroit's hands because of the Matthew Stafford trade. So this would have been a 2024 and a 2025 first for a good player, but certainly not a Myles Garrett or TJ Watt of the world. Would Brian have helped the Rams for the rest of 2022? Yes, absolutely he would have, but this team is nowhere close to where they were last year when they made a push for Von Miller. I honestly think this would have hurt them far more in the long run because of the closing window they're in. And that's no disrespect to Brian as much as it is to say this team is on the verge of going downhill fast in a big way. They can't run the ball. They can't protect Matthew Stafford. They don't have a legitimate number 2 weapon. And the ugly part of Matthew Stafford's game is more evident than before, and that's turnovers. Stafford led the league in interceptions in 2021 with 17, but that doesn't matter when you win a Super Bowl. But when you're averaging 16.4 points per game and have the fourth lowest scoring offense in the league ahead of the Steelers, who are going through their own battles currently, the Broncos, don't need to say much more than that, and the Colts, who recently fired Frank Reich, the turnovers matter. And as Rams fans know all too well, Aaron Donald won't be around forever either, as he flirted heavily with retirement last offseason after the long-awaited Super Bowl victory. Matt Stafford is also 34 and not playing well. The Los Angeles Rams have truly been an anomaly over the past 5 years. They set a trend in the NFL that teams are starting to not follow exactly, but to trade picks for players that can help them immediately, and we've seen that, like with Bradley Chubb going to the Dolphins as they push for a Super Bowl run, or like the Vikings trading for TJ Hawkinson. Sean McVay and Les Snead have left their mark, and all of their hard work resulted in a Super Bowl victory last February. I am very happy for them and glad they got a ring because that made all of their sacrifices worth it. But at this point in time, I don't think the Rams are going to run it back, not just in 2022, but beyond that as well, at least not with this core group of guys. But it doesn't matter because they got the ring. And at this point, I do think the Rams should look to rebuild with young talent and keep those draft picks in the meantime and build the roster back up. And I can't wait to see how the Rams attack the rest of 2022 and how they attack this offseason. And that's all I have for today's video. I hope you enjoyed. If you did, please like the video and subscribe to the channel. And until next time, as always, please be safe and have a great day. Love you guys.